You ready to like unpack some of those pregnancy jitters?
Yeah.
Bringing a tiny human into the world is a huge adventure.
Absolutely.
And it's totally normal to have
Oh, yeah.
a few or maybe a lot of fears
Totally.
swirling around.
Right.
So today, we're diving deep into Conquer Your Fear of Childbirth.
Okay.
This book,
Yeah.
that promises to swap out those what-ifs with some solid knowledge.
Love it.
We're talking everything from pregnancy myths to what to expect postpartum.
Right.
The stuff that keeps you up at 3 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
when even the pickles and ice cream don't work.
Definitely.
What's fascinating about this book is how it tackles even those fears that feel silly to say out loud.
Yeah.
You know, the ones you see in movies and think, no way that's real.
Exactly. It really tackles those anxieties that feel almost embarrassing.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, can you really crush the baby by sleeping on your stomach?
Right.
I swear that thought haunted me for weeks.
The book puts that one to rest right away.
Okay, good.
It explains how your uterus is seriously strong and designed to protect your little one.
Right.
Plus, the amniotic fluid acts like a built-in cushion.
Okay.
And as you get bigger, your body will naturally
Interesting.
steer you towards safer sleeping positions anyway.
That is so reassuring.
Yeah.
And what about, let's be honest,
Right.
the fear of pooping during labor?
Okay.
It's like a rite of passage
It's like
in every birth movie.
the
But is it really that common?
Well, the book gets real about the whole pushing process and how it uses, shall we say, familiar muscles.
Okay.
It actually points out that for many women,
Yeah.
it's a sign that things are moving along as they should.
Okay, so maybe it's not something to dread,
Right.
but a sign that you're closer to meeting your little one.
Exactly.
Now, the book also dives into morning sickness, which for me has been a roller coaster.
I hear that.
It mentions a survival kit idea.
Yeah.
Right. That I'm really curious about.
So it's not just your typical crackers and ginger ale.
Okay.
It recommends things like peppermint oil, apparently a lifesaver for nausea,
Okay.
and even nutritional drinks like Ensure if you're struggling to keep anything down.
See, this is what I need.
Yeah.
Actionable advice.
Okay.
Let's move on to the nutrition jungle.
Right?
It's so overwhelming trying to figure out what to eat, how much weight to gain.
It is.
Does the book actually make this stuff understandable?
It totally does. It emphasizes healthy weight gain
Right.
over restrictive dieting and even breaks down your calorie needs per trimester.
Okay.
So you're not just guessing.
That makes sense.
What I found super helpful was the way it explains WHY. Specific nutrients are important,
Right.
not just listing them off like a grocery list.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
Give me an example. Like, what stood out to you as super practical advice?
The section on calcium was great. It explains how it's crucial for your baby's bone development and then gives you options.
Okay.
Dairy sources, of course, but also things like leafy greens and almonds if you're vegan or lactose intolerant.
That's awesome. Speaking of which, I'm already waging war with chocolate cravings.
I feel that.
Does the book offer any solutions besides just avoid it?
It actually has some surprisingly delicious substitutes.
Okay.
Like a chocolate black bean brownie smoothie.
Really?
Sounds strange, I know,
Yeah.
but it supposedly hits the spot.
Wow.
And it's packed with nutrients.
Okay. I am so trying that.
Yeah.
It sounds like the book goes deep, even addressing specific diets,
Right.
like vegan or vegetarian.
It definitely mentions that.
Okay.
Which is great because every pregnancy is different.
Right.
And you need that personalized guidance.
Now,
Yeah.
let's be brave
Okay.
and tackle the elephant in the room.
All right.
Labor pain.
Yeah.
I think that's the fear
Definitely.
that looms largest for most moms to be.
Absolutely.
Does the book offer any hope here?
It actually starts by emphasizing natural pain management techniques.
Okay.
Things like breathing exercises, finding positions that help labor progress faster, even massage and aromatherapy.
Interesting.
It really focuses on working with the pain,
Right.
not just trying to numb it out completely.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah,
It's about feeling empowered, not just helpless.
exactly.
But what about pain medication? Does the book address those options too?
Absolutely. And it's very clear
Okay.
that there's no shame in choosing pain relief.
Right.
It provides information on different types of medication,
Okay.
emphasizing that it's your choice and what feels right for you.
I love that.
Yeah.
No judgment. just knowledge so you can make informed decisions.
Right.
Now, another fear that I think a lot of women have is the fear of needing a C-section.
Okay.
It's major surgery.
Right.
And it's easy to get caught up in those worst-case scenarios.
Yeah.
The book tackles this head-on.
Yeah.
It actually uses statistics to show that C-sections are more common than people think.
Right.
Which I think is a good starting point.
Yeah.
To normalize it.
Exactly.
It also focuses on being prepared. Knowing what to expect.
Right.
Can help reduce anxiety.
Absolutely.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power.
I agree.
Okay. I want to shift gears now.
Okay.
To something that I think doesn't get talked about enough.
Right.
Life after birth.
Right.
The postpartum period. It's a huge EDE adjustment.
It is.
And the book has some great insights here on the physical recovery side.
Okay.
It's got practical tips, things like mesh underwear, deli wraps, all that good stuff to help you feel comfortable as your body heals.
Absolutely.
Comfort is definitely a priority after giving birth.
For sure.
But what about the emotional side of things? Postpartum depression is a real concern.
Right.
Does the book sugarcoat this?
Not at all.
Okay, good.
It's very upfront about postpartum depression.
Right.
And even touches on postpartum PTSD,
which
can happen after a traumatic birth experience.
Right.
It's reassuring to know that the book acknowledges these challenges and offers resources and advice.
Okay, so it's not just sunshine and rainbows, but real talk about the potential challenges.
Exactly.
But to balance that out, does it offer any lighter, more positive tips for navigating those early weeks with a newborn?
It definitely does.
Like what?
It suggests little things like getting fresh air. Even just a short walk can work wonders.
Okay.
And pampering yourself a bit.
Right.
A new haircut. Why not? It's about finding those little moments of joy amidst the chaos.
No, I love that. It's so easy to lose yourself in those early days of motherhood.
Absolutely.
But what about the more practical anxieties? Like, how do you handle all the advice everyone throws at you, or the constant stream of visitors wanting to hold the baby?
The book is really helpful on that front.
Okay, good.
It gives specific strategies for setting boundaries.
Okay.
For example, having a call first policy.
Okay.
For visitors.
Yeah.
So you're not bombarded.
Right.
It also talks about how to politely decline unwanted advice.
Right.
Because you know everyone's an expert once you have a baby.
That's so true. You get bumblooded with opinions.
Yeah.
But what about the baby itself?
Okay.
I mean, you're suddenly responsible for this tiny human. Does the book cover basic baby care?
It provides a really concise overview of the essentials.
Okay.
Things like safe sleep practices, emphasizing the back to sleep rule, and what not to put in the crib.
Okay.
It also touches on feeding, mentioning both breastfeeding and formula, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
And quick tips on diapering, bathing, even soothing a crying baby.
Oh.
Enough to give you confidence, but not overwhelm you.
Okay, so a good foundation to get you started on the baby care journey.
Exactly.
This is all so helpful. And it really feels like Conquer Your Fear of Childbirth is a solid resource.
It is.
For new moms to feel more confident and less overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
We've covered a ton of ground already.
Yeah.
But this is just the beginning of our deep dive.
Right.
What are some of the fears we haven't tackled yet that you think might be lurking in our listeners' mind?
Oh, that's a good question. I have some thoughts on that.
Hold on to those thoughts.
Okay.
Because we'll be back in a flash to explore even more.
Sounds good. So many fears we haven't even touched on yet.
Right.
It's amazing how this book really gets into those sometimes unspoken fears that I think a lot of moms-to-be have.
You're so right.
Yeah.
It's like the book read my mind and pulled out all those worries I was too afraid to even ask about.
Right, exactly.
So what's one of those fears that really stood out to you?
One that I think will resonate with a lot of listeners is the fear of not making it to the hospital in time.
Oh, yeah, that one.
You know, that classic image of giving birth in the back of a taxi.
Right.
But the book does a fantastic job of putting that Hollywood-fueled anxiety into perspective.
Oh, thank goodness.
Right.
Because let's be honest, that's a terrifying thought.
I know.
So what does the book say about that? Is it really as common as movies make it seem?
Not even close.
Okay.
It explains that super fast labors, what they call precipitous labor, are actually quite rare.
Really?
Only about 3% of births happen that quickly.
Wow.
The book gives you
Okay.
a much more realistic view
Yeah.
of labor progression,
Mm-hmm.
so you're not freaking out
Okay.
at the first twinge.
Okay, that makes me feel so much better.
Yeah.
But still,
Right.
I can see how that fear would creep in,
I-
especially for first-timers like our listener.
Especially, yeah.
What kind of advice does the book give for dealing with that particular anxiety?
It stresses the importance of timing.
Right.
Those contractions early on.
Yeah.
That way you can get a sense of how things are progressing and when it's really time to head to the hospital.
Okay.
It even suggests doing a practice run,
Really?
literally driving the route to the hospital.
Wow.
So you're familiar with the timing and any potential traffic nightmares.
That's brilliant.
Right.
I never would have thought of that,
Yeah.
but it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the fear around hospitals, though, is just the unknown.
Right.
What if things don't go according to plan?
That's where the book's emphasis on creating a birth plan comes in.
Oh.
It encourages you to think through your preferences, pain management,
No.
positions you'd like to try, even who you want in the delivery room.
Right.
It's all about feeling more prepared and in control.
Okay, but what if things go off script? Birth is unpredictable, right?
Exactly.
Does the book acknowledge that?
It's very clear
Okay.
that a birth plan is a guide,
Right.
not a set-in-stone contract.
Makes sense.
Things change, and that's okay.
Yeah.
The point is to have those conversations with your healthcare provider beforehand.
Right.
So everyone's on the same page,
Right.
no matter what happens.
So it's about communication and flexibility
Yeah.
as much as it is about having a specific plan.
Exactly.
That makes me feel a lot more relaxed about the whole thing.
Good. I'm glad.
Now, another big fear I think many women have, especially those hoping for a vaginal birth,
Yeah,
is the fear of needing a C-section.
absolutely.
And I think this is where some of those horror stories we hear
Right.
can really take root. But Conquer Your Fear of Childbirth
Yeah.
does a great job of dispelling some of those myths.
It really does.
Okay, so how does it approach the whole C-section conversation? Because it is a major surgery.
It is.
And I think the fear comes from not understanding
Right.
WHY might be necessary.
It starts by normalizing C-sections with some statistics.
Oh.
Did you know that in the U.S., nearly 1/3 of births are C-sections?
Really? Wow.
It's not this rare, scary outcome
right.
that many people imagine.
Wow, that's a lot higher than I would have guessed.
Yeah,
But it's good to have that context.
it is.
Does the book also talk about the reasons WHY a C-section might be needed?
It definitely does.
Okay.
It outlines situations like preeclampsia,
Right.
a stalled labor, or if the baby is showing signs of distress.
Good.
It really emphasizes that often a C-section is the safest choice
Right.
for both mom and baby.
That's a really important point.
Yeah,
It's not always about things going wrong,
right.
but about making the best decision in the moment.
Exactly.
But even knowing the reasons,
Yeah.
the thought of a C-section can still be scary.
Right.
What advice does the book give on how to cope with that fear?
It encourages open communication with your doctor.
Okay.
Talk about your concerns, ask questions about their approach to C-sections,
Okay.
and what to expect if one becomes necessary.
Hmm.
Again, it comes back to feeling informed and empowered.
I'm seeing a theme here.
Right.
Knowledge really does help conquer those fears.
I think so.
But I want to address a fear
Okay.
that I think is deeply ingrained in many of us, the fear of dying during childbirth.
Right.
It's a heavy topic,
It is.
but one that deserves attention.
Yeah, I agree.
It's definitely the elephant in the room. And while maternal death is statistically rare,
Right.
especially in developed countries, the book doesn't shy away from this fear.
It doesn't.
So how does it approach such a sensitive and emotionally charged topic?
It highlights the incredible advancements in medical care and safety measures that have drastically reduced the risks associated with childbirth.
Okay.
It also emphasizes the importance of choosing a healthcare provider you trust and having those open conversations about any concerns you have.
Trust is everything in this journey.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about a fear that's a bit lighter,
Yeah.
but still very common.
Okay.
The fear of all those down there changes after childbirth.
Right.
Will things ever be the same again?
Right. Those post-birth horror stories
I know.
can really get to you.
Right.
But Conquer Your Fear of Childbirth
Okay.
is incredibly reassuring on this front.
Okay. Please give me the good news.
Okay.
Tell me everything will go back to normal.
The book is very clear.
Okay.
Your body is amazing
Okay.
and designed to recover.
All right.
It talks about how the vagina is incredibly elastic and capable of stretching to accommodate a baby, and then gradually regaining its shape afterward.
Okay, I'm breathing a sigh of relief.
Good.
But what about tearing episiotomies, all that stuff? Does the book sugarcoat those realities?
Not all.
Okay, good.
It explains that while tearing can happen, it's often minor and heals well.
Okay.
It also discusses episiotomies, which are less routinely performed now, and how open communication with your doctor can help you understand when and why they might be necessary.
There's that communication theme again. It's so important.
It is.
But I know some women worry about the impact on their sex lives after childbirth.
Yeah.
Does the book address that at all?
It tackles this head-on, dispelling the myth that childbirth ruins everything.
Okay.
It emphasizes that most partners are in awe of the strength and beauty they witness during birth.
Yeah.
And that intimacy afterward is about rediscovering each other's bodies with patience and love.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the changes and finding a new level of connection.
Exactly.
But you know, while we're on that topic, there's a fear I've heard from friends.
Okay.
And it's about their partner being turned off.
Right.
Not just physically, but emotionally, by the whole labor process. What if they're grossed out?
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
And it gets to the heart of vulnerability, right?
Right.
The book acknowledges that some people might be squeamish about blood or the graphic realities of childbirth.
Right.
But guess what? Communication is key here, too.
So talking it through beforehand can help alleviate some of that anxiety.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Being honest about your fears and expectations and finding ways to support each other is so important.
Yeah.
The book reminds us that labor and delivery are a shared experience.
Okay.
A testament to the strength and love
of
a couple bringing new life into the world.
That's a beautiful way to reframe it.
Yeah.
Now, on that note of shared experiences, what about the fear that your doctor won't make it in time for the delivery?
Okay.
Is that something the book addresses?
Oh, yes. The classic missing doctor scenario.
Right.
The book does a great job of calming this fear by explaining the hospital systems and backup plans.
So there's no need to worry about being left to deliver the baby all by yourself.
Exactly.
Okay.
Hospitals have teams of qualified medical professionals ready to step in if needed.
Okay.
It's all about creating a safe and supportive environment
for
you to give birth.
Okay, phew. That's definitely reassuring.
Yeah.
But what about another fear?
Okay.
That's less about the medical side and more about, well, feeling in control.
Okay.
It's the fear of your birth plan going completely out the window.
This ties back to what we talked about earlier regarding flexibility. The book encourages you to view your birth plan as a set of preferences, not a rigid set of rules.
So it's more about expressing your wishes.
Exactly.
And having those open conversations with your healthcare provider, right?
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between having a vision for your birth experience and being open to adapting as needed.
Right.
And, you know, while we're on the topic of birth plans and preferences, there's another fear that often comes up regarding pain management.
Yeah.
The fear of getting an epidural.
Oh, the epidural.
Right.
I've heard so many stories.
Oh, I know.
What kind of insights does the book provide?
It breaks down the epidural process in a clear and calm way, addressing common concerns, like potential side effects, and even the fear of needles. It really highlights the expertise of anesthesiologists and the safety measures in place.
So it's about dispelling those myths.
Right.
And presenting the epidural as a viable option.
Yeah.
Not something to be afraid of.
Yeah.
Okay. And remember, the book encourages you to explore all your pain management options.
Right.
And choose what feels right for you.
I love that.
Yeah.
No judgment, just information and empowerment.
Right.
Now, I want to address a fear that I think is especially prevalent among first-time moms.
Right.
The fear of not being a good mom is such a big unknown.
It's a huge fear, and the book handles it with such sensitivity.
Okay, good.
It emphasizes that the maternal instinct is powerful.
Right.
And that most moms figure things out as they go.
Okay, that's good to hear.
It also highlights the importance of seeking support for family friends and healthcare professionals.
Okay.
You're not alone in this.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
You don't have to have all the answers right away.
You don't.
But what about those specific worries? Like knowing how to soothe a crying baby.
Right.
Or figuring out breastfeeding. The book lays a really good foundation for basic baby care.
Okay.
It offers tips on swaddling, feeding cues, creating a calming environment.
Okay.
It also encourages you to trust your intuition.
Right.
And not be afraid to ask for help.
It's all about learning and growing as a parent, one step at a time.
Exactly.
We've talked about a lot of fears so far.
Yeah, we have.
But I'm sure there are still some lurking in our listeners' mind.
A bit.
What's one fear that we haven't tackled yet that you think might be on their mind? Think about it.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we'll be back soon to unpack even more anxieties and offer even more insights from Conquer Your Fear of Childbirth.
Sounds good.
Okay, so many anxieties still to uncover.
So many, yeah. It's like pregnancy's a breeding ground for what-ifs.
Right, and this book, Conquer Your Fear of Childbirth, seems to have an answer for every single one.
It really does. It's pretty impressive.
You know, one that I remember obsessing over, and I'm sure our listener can relate, is the whole water breaking thing.
Oh, yeah, the big genetic gush.
It's like this mysterious event that you have zero control over.
Right, like you said in the grocery store.
Exactly. So does the book sort of set the record straight on that?
It totally demystifies it. It explains that, contrary to what we see in movies, most women don't experience their water breaking before labor even starts.
Okay, so those dramatic scenes aren't the norm.
Not usually. It's usually much more subtle.
That's a relief. But what does the book say about when it's likely to happen and what to expect? Because I remember being terrified of it happening in the middle of the grocery store.
Right. Well, for most women, it actually happens during active labor, often as the baby's head is descending. And it's usually more of a trickle than a gush, so those fears of a sudden flood are often unfounded.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better.
Good.
But still, I can imagine it would be startling, especially if you're not expecting it. Does the book offer any advice on what to do when it happens?
It does. It's just noting the color and amount of fluid and contacting your doctor or midwife right away. It also reminds you to pack some extra pads in your hospital bag, just in case.
Smart move. But what about those situations where labor doesn't start right away after your water breaks? Does the book address that?
It definitely does. And it emphasizes the importance of following your healthcare provider's guidance. They might suggest waiting for labor to be naturally or recommend an induction if necessary.
So it's about staying in communication with your doctor and trusting their expertise. But what about those situations where an induction becomes necessary, not because of water breaking early, but because of other factors, like going past your due date? I know inductions can be a source of anxiety for a lot of women.
Absolutely. The book acknowledges that an induction might not be part of your ideal birth plan, and it encourages open conversations with your doctor. It suggests discussing the reasons for induction, exploring different methods, and understanding the potential risks and benefits. It's all about making informed decisions.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about feeling empowered even when things deviate from the plan. But speaking of inductions, there's one fear I've heard a lot, that the induction process itself is long and painful. Does the book address that?
It does. It acknowledges that inductions can sometimes take longer than spontaneous labor, and the contractions might feel more intense. But it also highlights the pain management options available, both natural and medical, so you can cope effectively.
Okay, good to know there's support available. Now, I want to shift gears to a fear that's less about the birthing process and more about the baby's well-being, the fear of the umbilical cord getting wrapped around the baby's neck. I think that's a worry that haunts a lot of moms-to-be.
It's definitely a common fear, but the book does a great job of explaining that nuptial cords, as they're called, are actually quite common occurring in about 1/3 of births.
Wow, that's a lot more frequent than I would have thought. But does it actually pose a risk to the baby?
In most cases, a nuptial cord is harmless. Doctors and midwives are trained to handle these situations, often simply slipping the cord over the baby's head during delivery.
That's such a relief to hear.
Right.
It's not the emergency situation that we often imagine. But what about another fear that's tied to the baby's health? The fear of premature birth. That's a big one.
It is. And the book approaches it with both sensitivity and practicality. It acknowledges the emotional weight of this fear, the worry about your baby being born too early and facing potential health challenges. But then it empowers you with knowledge.
Okay, so it validates those feelings before getting into the facts.
Exactly. It outlines the risk factors associated with premature birth so you can be aware of them and discuss any concerns with your doctor.
So it's about understanding your own individual risks.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it also talks about the signs and symptoms of preterm labor, so you know what to watch out for and when to seek medical attention. It's about being proactive and informed, which can definitely help alleviate some of the anxiety.
That makes so much sense. Knowledge is power. But I want to touch on a fear that arises not from the pregnancy itself, but from those anxieties about life after baby arrives. Postpartum depression is a very real and very common struggle. Does the book address this adequately?
It does. Conquer Your Fear of Childbirth absolutely does not shy away from this topic. It provides a clear and sensitive overview of postpartum depression, explaining the symptoms, potential causes, and most importantly, the available treatments and support networks.
So it's not just saying, hey, this might happen, but giving you the tools to address it if it does.
Exactly. It emphasizes that postpartum depression is treatable and that seeking help is a sign of strength. It also encourages open communication with your partner, family, and healthcare providers so you're not facing this challenge alone.
That's so important. Having that support system in place can make all the difference. But I know a lot of first-time moms worry about the practical side of things, those feelings of, how am I going to do this? How will I know how to care for a tiny human? Does the book offer any reassurance there?
It has a fantastic section on baby care basics, covering everything from feeding and diapering to soothing a crying baby and creating a safe sleep environment. It's practical and concise, perfect for those early weeks with a newborn.
That's so helpful, especially for those of us who are stepping into this whole new world of baby care.
Yeah.
But, amidst all the focus on the baby, it's easy to forget about taking care of yourself.
Oh, it's so true.
Yeah.
Self-care is essential.
And Conquer Your Fear of Childbirth dedicates a whole chapter to self-care for new moms.
It does.
It reminds us that taking care of ourselves is essential, both for our own well-being and for our ability to care for our babies.
Couldn't agree more.
What are some of the self-care tips that resonated with you? Because I think a lot of moms feel guilty about prioritizing their own needs.
The book encourages you to prioritize rest, even if it's just short naps.
Yeah.
It also suggests finding little ways to pamper yourself: a relaxing bath, a new outfit, even just a few minutes of quiet time with a cup of tea. It's about those small acts of kindness towards yourself.
Those are great ideas. It's so easy to get lost in the demands of motherhood. But those little moments of self-care can make such a difference. What about the bigger picture of self-care, the emotional and mental well-being of a new mom? Does the book touch on that?
It does. It encourages connecting with other moms, either through in-person support groups or online communities. It also talks about the importance of open communication with your partner and seeking professional help if you're struggling with anxiety or depression.
That's so key because it's easy to feel isolated and overwhelmed in those early days of motherhood. As we wrap up our deep dive into Conquer Your Fear of Childbirth, I'm struck by the book's underlying message of empowerment. It's not about eliminating fear, but about transforming it into something positive.
I love that. You said it perfectly. It's about understanding your fears, seeking knowledge, and surrounding yourself with support so you can approach this incredible journey with confidence and joy.
Well said. And to our listener out there, thank you for joining us on this exploration of pregnancy and childbirth. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are not alone. And if you're looking for a guide to help you navigate this amazing journey, definitely check out Conquer Your Fear of Childbirth. You won't regret it.